And yeah, we are now really international. We have another speaker now from Milan, right? Italy. Edmondo Orlotti. I hope I pronounced that right. He's also a former NVIDIA colleague, let me say that. And he's an AI business development lead now at one of our other partners, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. And I would like to learn more about how do we turn this data into action and insight. And a warm welcome to you, Edmondo Orlotti. Welcome. This is your stage.
Thank you. I don't have any. I can use hands. I mean, that's Italy usually use hands, so it should be easy. So.
You can also use your hand when you.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, good afternoon. It was asked before, but can I ask to the people working in startups to raise their hands? So quite a few still. Okay. So I can claim that HP is the oldest startup in the market, right? So just 83 years of life. And let's say we are a startup in the mindset, right? So I was thinking, okay, how do I present HP in a way that doesn't look old, right? Definitely, I'm not a millennial. I have kids who are millennials, and I already struggle to understand them. And the AI world, I've been in this AI world since, well, 10 years, basically, since the deep learning popped up in the market. And the technology moves fast. And in HP, we created the team that I belong to because we believe that turning artificial intelligence into something that can help customers, enterprises in production is not such an easy thing. And I'm going to show you a few slides or a few numbers on this specifically. So there is one point that I always like to make, no? Because AI and deep learning, they came out of a need, right? The need to process a huge amount of data, right? And sometimes I have the feeling that we forget that in the market, right? We got used to manipulate and manage massive amounts of data. If we look at the trends, what I usually say to my customers is that the data is simply, the amount of data that we have to deal with is simply getting out of control. So there is no way to handle the amount of data that is being generated. This is increasing so fast. All the forecasts, they always increase the amount of data that actually will be generated. And if I look at the number on the extreme right here, this comes out of the Ericsson Mobility Report for 2027. It says that only the data generated on wireless networks, mobile and fixed, will amount to 370 exabytes per month. So that's when, let's say, we like to say we have built the proper strategy because the usual thinking is, okay, I mean, we move the data in the cloud, and in some ways we will manage that. You can't. The amount of data that you're going to deal with will require to process data wherever needed and wherever possible, because you will not be able to transport the data. So data management, data movement has to be rethought. So then if you have this type of problems, then let's say, how does HP cope with these challenges? We have a motto, let's say. We do believe, as I said, with the startup mentality, we do believe that with technology we can change the way that people live and work. But what does it mean? How do we do that? What is the role of HP in a world like the world of AI that is moving fast, and where Hewlett-Packard Enterprise is usually perceived as the traditional system integrator for IT. So I show it with some examples. Jaap mentioned Red Bull first. I can say that we started our partnership with the Mercedes team long time ago, and this led to quite many successes. But what we did there was to take their business challenges, work with them, and solve them. And going into the details is obviously impossible, but we covered a lot of the aspects where the introduction of AI really changed the landscape. We did that for Mercedes, but we work with almost all the Formula One teams in the world, and our focus is to make sure that what they have in mind can be turned into something real. Talking about something real, another example, which is an interesting example also in terms of data explosion and handling massive amounts of data. We provide the end-to-end platform that Volvo Cars through Zenseact is using to develop the autonomous driving features. What does it mean? It means that we are able to collect, store, and make available all the data that Zenseact needs in order to develop and validate the software. It seems trivial, but think about hundreds of petabytes of data that you need to validate and reprocess in a certain given time because you have roadmaps and so on. In order to build this type of infrastructures, what we do is to embed with the customer and define these pipelines together, leveraging all the technologies available in the portfolio. And this is this requires thinking out of the box. This is where we provide the advantage of designing the solution based on the customer requirements and not adapting what's existing forcing it to adapt on something that is not fit for the job. Any reference to the public cloud is intentional. So this is how we work then. We have a strategy that spans from the edge to the cloud. What it means that we can provide solutions on the edge, the extreme edge, I mean, even in the field or in the car or wherever, or the almost edge, like base stations, cellular networks, and so on. And we go up into the data center, even in the public cloud. So this edge to cloud approach is driven by the customer needs and the need of optimizing the data movements. Again, this is something I will keep on repeating. Artificial intelligence in production, most of the challenges that we have experienced, once you have your models trained and you have your setup, most of the challenges are the implementation in the production pipelines with all the data you have, right? Managing the data, handling the data, different sources, different requirements is a complex matter. It may be boring. I don't think so, but it may sound boring, not so exciting as developing an AI model, but it is what makes the difference between a nice model that you use only for nice demos or a model that you can effectively put in production. So in order to do this, that we have built a lot of tools, including basically financial tools. What does it mean? It means that all this infrastructure that we can provide it on an as a service, a pay-per-use model. So basically, we have brought the model of the cloud into any type of solution, whether this is on the edge or in the data center. We have obviously a strong heritage in the hardware portfolio. We have basically almost any technology that we need available in our portfolio. So we have defined infrastructures from an hardware perspective that are optimized for the different needs. And we do have the three elements that are usually determining the efficiency of an AI solution, the compute with the GPUs, but also extremely critical and very often underestimated, the storage technologies, how to get fast access to the data. This is something that is usually really underestimated, especially when the problem scales. The last one, extremely important, is obviously also the interconnect. So being able to move the data as fast as needed. So then when it comes to developers of AI, then we have been working on the two main elements. Obviously, on one side, the development of the model and the training, and on the other side, on the deployment and the management of the entire life cycle. For these ones, we have developed specific solutions. But let me give you a little bit of an example of how we work on this. So, as I said, we start from what is the customer business need, and then what we do is to look first where the data is generated, how ingestion works, what are the requirements there, how do I aggregate data, how do we normalize data. We go through all these processes that, in our experience, they affect more than 50% of the problems that then enterprises have when they have to put AI in production. So then in the data center, how are the models deployed, how they are trained, and for this in particular, we look into, okay, what is the scalability of the models? How can we run optimizations? Jaap was referring to the high cost of data scientists before. Imagine that you are training a large language model the training can last weeks or if not months on hundreds of nodes, right? How do you make that efficient so that if anything happens, you don't lose completely your job, you can run effectively on your infrastructure. And how can you scale easily your model across, let's say, virtually any amount of resources you can have available, and then how you manage the deployment in production. These are all aspects that, let's say, for which we work closely with the customers. Then, when it comes to trainings, in particular, we made an acquisition last year. We acquired a startup called Determined AI, a startup that has developed a software that facilitates the scaling of trainings and the management of training models with several features, in particular for scaling on any number of GPUs. So, because we realized that the models are getting larger, so there is an increased demand for large-scaled solutions in order to train models. GPT-3 is one usual example. The other thing that this software that we acquired from Determined AI does is it allows multiple users to leverage the same resources, because you start maybe with one model, then you start having more users, more models. All of them are using slightly different frameworks or different implementations. How do you work in a true multi-tenant environment? And this is what we fixed also with the software. So we have then created a full stack that starts from the hardware up to the software infrastructure stack, in order to make sure that all these technologies can be leveraged. Same goes for the inferencing. In this case, particularly in the inferencing, there is a big motion of ISVs and companies that deliver all types of solutions, and also looking into other techniques to adapt quickly the way that models are developed, as well as some solutions for the system management and for the fleet management that in particular enable the deployment of trained models across the edge. And this is something that, particularly in the telco industry, is becoming a critical factor. I was mentioning before the 370 exabytes of data that are generated per month, the telco companies, they cannot, get all this data to travel to central data centers. There is a need to extract the value out of the data as soon as possible. This could be done, if it's not possible on your phone already, this will be done at least in the closest station from the telco companies. But then you need to have systems capable of running the inferencing at scale on tens and even hundreds of thousands of edges. So, looking at this AI at scale problem, the way that we perceive in the market, the trends that we see, then our target has been to develop, as I said, an optimized infrastructure that goes through the hardware, the software stack, and also the service model. So to make this available as a service in the seamless cloud experience. We have then built a set of software tools that are part of our HP software stack that are, let's say, our contribution to the AI community. Most of these are open source and freely available for download. In particular, I was mentioning the term in the AI software for training at scale, hyperparameter optimization, and snapshots features you have in this tool that makes it, I believe, quite interesting for anyone who's doing training at scale, let's say at some scale, at least outside of one box. This software is available as open source. It's been renamed HP Machine Learning Development Environment, but this is, let's say, one package. There is another technology. Jaap was mentioning federated learning. We are working heavily on a variation that is swarm learning for AI, because we have seen big challenges when it comes to data that have, let's say, strict requirements in terms of access, like due to privacy, for instance, typically, namely in healthcare, in the FSI, or even retail banking. Imagine hospitals that cannot exchange data across each other, or even across countries. I know that for Germany, but let's say there is now, especially after the pandemic, there is this effort from the European Commission to build data spaces to normalize data in certain fields, and there's going to be a data space also for the healthcare. This will allow to have normalization of healthcare data across the European countries, and for some countries it's important because even in the country there is no normalization. But the problem still will be that it will be very difficult for countries to exchange the data itself, right? It's very sensitive. With technologies like swarm learning, you can run your models without exchanging the data. You only exchange the networks, the trained networks, and you build a network that is the result of all the data coming out. So we got success on this in the healthcare and also in the retail banking for pretty much the same reasons, in the sense that if they want to build models on their customers, crossing countries for bank institutions is a challenge. But we have also another tool that is our MLOps platform. It's called HP Emerald platform, MLOps platform, that is then managing the entire life cycle of an AI model. So it takes care of versioning, takes care of deploying and improving the models in a multi-tenant environment. Last one that I mentioned, one of the key aspects that we, again, it's always important to consider, is that AI, deep learning in particular, requires a lot of compute. And this compute usually is provided by infrastructure that is HPC type. So what's happening in the industry is that a lot of the HPC capacity that is available across the world is used also for AI workloads. There is a sort of convergence between HPC and artificial intelligence. They try to leverage as much as possible the same infrastructure. This is not an easy task because the two worlds, they use completely different tools. But there is also another trend on top of that, which is the utilization of AI for traditional simulation. That has now become, I would say, quite significant. Again, we have another tool that comes out of our acquisition of Cray, which is called SmartSim, which is an environment built to leverage AI techniques for traditional simulation. I will not dig that much more into it. I have a couple of examples. So to mention a very interesting case, a customer and a partner that we have in Germany, Aleph Alpha. Aleph Alpha is, I would say in this case, a partner on the determined AI software, the development environment, because they're using it and they're helping us to debug it and to improve it, which is beneficial for the entire community. So that's an interesting example of a company that does require training at scale for large language models. No? And here the training can actually run at any scale. The limit is only the amount of GPUs you can put in the data center. To provide you other examples, this is a case in the defense sector, talking about the MLOps platform. In this case, we are talking about a user that has hundreds of users and tens, if not hundreds, of different models, all of them in the need of using the same platform. So the MLOps platform allows them to keep the entire life cycle of all the models, of all the users under control. The swarm learning that I was mentioning before, we did get a paper published on Nature for the activities we have been running on swarm learning, and in particular in the healthcare sector. And as I said, this is a technology that is of interest in certain areas of application, particularly when the data cannot be exchanged around. Last example, just to mention this, AI in traditional simulation is particularly relevant because it allows you to get to results faster. So we're going to see more and more application of AI techniques embedded into traditional simulation in different domains. This one is in climate, but you can imagine molecular dynamics as well, CFD. So all the environment of computer data engineering, this will help us on this. So closing on my presentation, the topics that we touch are topics that are related to make sure that the customers really think out of the box on problems that are difficult to manage. The traditional solutions, they work up to a certain level. Our focus then is to help and enable the real changes in AI, because AI is effective once you are able to apply and to scale it at large. And this is what we work on. Very often we do have to challenge our customers to drop the legacy and think in a completely different way. When I go to a customer and they tell him, hey, you need to reduce your data before you can do anything with it, then they start getting lost, right? Not because the traditional thinking, even a lot of data scientists, they just think, okay, I have all my data there, and then I will process it, I will do it. This is not possible. I mean, it is still possible in many cases, but it's going to be less and less the standard. And in order to do that, you need to work with technologies that are, let's say, part of our portfolio, but in general, technologies that are innovative technologies. And that's why also we look into startups that can provide enabling technologies for the modern usage of AI at scale. And that closes my presentation.
Thank you, Edmondo. Really, really well done. I have a bit general question to you. What do you think, what will be the most future-moving AI scenario?
Well, there are two trends that are kind of scary, especially if you have kids. Definitely the large language models and all the investments we are seeing in large language models, they are going to affect our daily life for sure. If they're not already doing that, the impact of the evolution of these large language models is going to be huge. The second element, the second trend, which is in a way related also to this large language model, that scares me a bit, also because I've been working in the graphics industry for a while, is the metaverse. Because again, with the large investments that are in there, then it's coming. In a way or another, it's coming. And this is also going to change, it's definitely going to change our society. Then I could mention other things like healthcare and so on and so on. But yeah. I think these two are going to have an impact on our daily life in ways that we are still not used to. And for us, let's say grown-up people will be able to handle that. But we will have to think how the naturally, digitally born people will cope with a completely different world.
Yeah. Is there anyone else frightened by or in the metaverse? Raise up your hand. No one? Cool. Do you have any questions? Otherwise, okay. I also like your approach with the swarm thing. I also know that from new work, do you see what is the challenge in this field?
Well, so it all relates to the fact that, so I was mentioning the privacy issues, right? So moving the data, but we have other cases where basically the amount of data that is generated is so much that it's very difficult to move it. If we think about the next generation of cars, they're going to have quite significant computing capacity. Apart from the autonomous driving features, there's going to be other computers in the cars that will do a lot of inferencing on the amount of data, massive amount of data that will be generated by all the sensors and even by the passengers inside the car. So swarm learning is a way to solve the challenge of sending this data somewhere else and then getting back the results, because this would be unpractical. So yes. There are many problems that swarm learning can solve, especially when we think on training at the edge.
Yes. Thank you so much for your presentation. See you later.
Thank you.
And a warm applause.